So, for the first time in history, two nuclear powers are shooting at each other. Hi, I'm Gas. Welcome to Millennium 7. This is an impromptu video covering the events that have happened yesterday night between India and Pakistan. First, we will discuss what has happened as far as we know now. Then I'm going to give a bit of context. Then we will delve deeper into the actual actions and the weapons and the technologies involved. Then we will see the highly controversial subject of the losses, and then we will try to make some speculation about what is happening now. But before starting, please give some love to the sponsor of this video, Ground News. Ground News is a website and an app that gathers related articles from more than 50,000 sources around the world in one place, so you can compare how different outlets cover the same subject. Every story comes with a clear breakdown of the political bias, credibility, ownership, and then headlines of the sources reporting, all backed by ratings from three independent news monitoring organizations. And here we are. India fires missiles into Pakistan. The story is massive. It has been covered by 800 sources, which is definitely a lot. We can see here that the bias distribution is quite balanced, and as a curiosity, we understand that Forbes broke the news in the United States, and the sources in this case are mostly American. One of the features that I found very interesting in Ground News is the fact that you can see the differences between the left-leaning sources and the right-leaning sources without going through all the sources. In fact, if you click on bias comparison, you read stuff like left-leaning outlets foreground the human cost and moral critique of India's missile strikes. In contrast, right-leaning coverage centers on justifying the strikes as precise, calibrated response to attacks by terrorists. Well, this is good enough to give you a basic idea, but if you want to read all the sources, all you have to do is click in, for example, on left, if you want the left-leaning sources, and here you have all your sources listed. You can't do this kind of analysis without a tool like Ground News. Ground News is very important for my research since I try to be as factual and unbiased as I can about something that often is neither black nor white. If you sign up through my link, you'll get 40% off the Vantage plan, which is what I use to get unlimited access to all the features. I think Ground News is doing a great job, and I hope you'll check them out. Please support the people who support me. So, what we know for sure that has happened is that India attacked 9 targets in Pakistani territory. These, according to the Indians, are bases of terrorists and centers for logistics and training and indoctrination of terrorists. This strike was named Operation Sindoor, I hope I pronounced it well, and the Pakistanis said that the Indian attack caused severe collateral damage, killing at least 26 civilians. Now, told like this, it seems that India is an aggressor, but there is a lot of context that is necessary to understand to explain why India and Pakistan are shooting at each other in this modern phase. India and Pakistan have been enemies since the beginning, since 1947, when the British almost suddenly conceded independence to the British Raj. At the time, there was a mix of different ethnicities in India. The majority was the Hindus, but there was also a very large minority of Muslims. This ended up in a breakup of the country in a Muslim part, which is Pakistan, and a Hindu part, which is modern India. There was a mass migration between the two sides, particularly Muslims went to Pakistan, but in some areas there was a pretty balanced mix of populations, typically in the Kashmir area, and that was the seed of an enduring hostility between India and Pakistan. In fact, since 1947, they have fought at least 3 major wars. There have been at least 3 conflicts that bordered an all-out war. There have been frontier incidents, and the situation is even more complicated because there are terrorist organizations operating in the area. Discussing the story of the relations between India and Pakistan would take hours. It is one of the crisis points of our modern world, and it has been for almost a century now. The modern stage, that one that gave birth to the events that we are discussing today, started very recently on the 23rd of April 2025. On that day, there was an attack on Indian territory in the Baisaran Valley that left 27 people dead. The responsibility for the attack was claimed by a group connected with a terrorist organization, at least according to the United Nations, called Lashkar-e-Taiba, which is operating from Pakistani territory. The Indian government accused the Pakistani government of supporting these terrorist organizations. The Pakistani denied. The tension escalated. Both countries closed their own airspace to the civilian flights of the other side. Both recommended their citizens being in the neighboring country to come back, and they closed the border. However, observers realized that this time was serious because India suspended the Indus Water Treaty, which is something that never happened before, even during all-out wars. This is a treaty that goes back to 1960 and exists because the main source of water for the Pakistan, which is the Indus River, could be controlled by India, that is upstream of Pakistan. So within the treaty, there are some specific provisions on what kind of use can be done of the Indus water, how much water can be drained, which kind of infrastructures can be built, and so on. This treaty remained operational even during the wars of 1965 and the War of 1971. So this is the first time in history that India unilaterally suspended the treaty. It's not difficult to understand that a country that is largely arid, like Pakistan, is dependent from the Indus water for basically its own survival. And this brings us to the events of last night, between the 6th and the 7th of May 2025, when India decided unilaterally, obviously, to attack these 9 bases of alleged terrorists in Pakistan territory, and the Pakistanis did not oblige. They contrasted the Indian operation. These are the 9 sites that the Indians claim to have attacked. It's about 500 kilometers from the southernmost at Bahawalpur to the northernmost, which is Muzaffarabad. What you can notice, though, that they are very close to the border or the line of contact. The one that is farther from the border is Bahawalpur in the south, and it is less than 100 kilometers. So all these sites should be within reach of platforms that are flying well inside the Indian airspace. Please keep this in mind. Actually, the Indians have shown a list of potential targets, which include those that have been hit, that is actually larger, includes 21 sites, but in this attack they just hit 9. So the Indians actually used a variety of different platforms. In this attack that is shown here, we can clearly see that they're using something that we have seen plenty of times in Ukraine, that is a drone that is hovering and then releasing a relatively small payload. And this one, the quality of the picture is quite low, so I don't know exactly where this is coming from. This seems unlikely to be a T-pod, a targeting pod, and we don't see the weapon hitting the target. We just see an explosion and that's it. Even in this one, the quality of the video is quite poor, but in the original video released by the Indians, you can hear a noise that I think is an helicopter rotor. So maybe they have used helicopters for this strike. Anyway, the fact that we have these pictures from above that are decent in quality, and these other pictures from what it seems are targeting systems that are very poor, is showing that they are definitely using a hunter-killer combination, where probably they're using drones as hunters and other platforms as killers. This one is particularly interesting because what we are seeing here is definitely the common interface of a drone. This could be most likely a loitering munition that is attacking this target. Again, this is something that we have seen several times in Ukraine. This one is a large installation, so it has been the subject of quite a lot of attention. In fact, we are shown 4 hits. The interesting point is that these weapons are clearly quite slow. So, what did the Indians use? Well, they used plenty of different systems. So, you have seen something very simple and easy, like the hovering drone releasing small grenades. The 4 weapons hitting the large compounds are most likely glide weapons. Most likely, they are hammer, French weapons that came with the Rafales. The Indians are actually testing their own indigenous glide bombs, but I don't believe they're ready yet. Could have been an operational test. We just don't know. We can't say from the images. The loitering munitions used by the Indians are very likely the Polish Warmate that India acquired in about 100 units. These look like a small conventional plane, which is consistent with the graphic we have seen in the videos. And one of those probably landed more or less intact in Pakistani territories, and we have a picture, so we can be quite sure that it is indeed a warlane. Moreover, there is a picture from social media of a spent booster of a BrahMos system, so it is more than likely that a BrahMos missile has been used. There are also press information about the Indians using Scalp missiles. So it almost seems that they wanted to test several different systems in an operational scenario, from the very simple ones to the very high end that they have. And this is definitely an interesting proposition. And now let's get to the part that is the most controversial: losses. The Pakistani have claimed of having shot down 5 Indian aircraft. The Indians, on the other side, say that they didn't take any loss. I mean, the news on the social media were completely all over the place. There have been a lot of different claims, unrelated, some really outlandish, some outright false, because they use, for example, pictures from different incidents that have happened before that are not related with these events. So it is very difficult to paint a picture that is realistic. So, with the help of the friends on the Millennium 7 Discord, who have been beyond praise for the kind of information collection and analysis that they did, I came to the conclusion that the Indians have lost 2 aircraft, potentially 3. They have probably lost 1 Rafale because there are very convincing pictures that seem to be authentic, depicting an external fuel tank and the wreck of an engine afterburner and nozzle that really seem those of Rafale. Moreover, a Martin Baker Mark III ejection seat has been found, and that one should come either from a Jaguar or from a Mirage 2000. I am not sure. I'm not entirely sure which kind of ejector seat the Indian Mirage 2000 is using, but it should come from one of these 2 aircraft. In any way, if the pilot ejected, the aircraft was shut down or crashed. Could be a hard kill, could be a soft kill, but it is definitely a sign of a kill, even though we don't have the wreck as in the case of the Rafale. Then there are the local Indian authorities, not the military authorities, not the central government, the local authorities in the area that claimed that they had 3 aircraft crashes last night. So one should be the Rafale. The second could be either a Mirage or a Jaguar. About the third, there have been several hypotheses. Could be, I've heard about a Su-30 MKI, I've heard about a MiG-29. There are some pictures that show an engine that could be a Russian engine, but is really difficult to say. There are also claims that the Pakistani lost at least 1 aircraft, but there are very, very little evidence about that. So I'm not convinced, at least for now. If more evidence surfaces in the coming days, I'm more than happy to change my mind. So why the fact that probably the Indians had relatively heavy losses is really important? Well, they use a wide variety of systems, many of them long range. If they really used Scalps and Brahmos, launching platform could well have been well inside the Indian airspace and being completely safe from any Pakistani reaction. The same could probably be true for the aircraft using the Hammer. Launched at high altitude, they have a relatively long range. So how did the Indian aircraft got in harm's way? One possibility is that the Pakistani actually reacted in time and used their long-range weapons. Well, recently PL-15s have been seen on Pakistani's J-10s, and that is a weapon that has a very long range. So an aircraft in flight, maybe 20 or 30 kilometers from the border, could probably easily reach an Indian aircraft coming toward the border, which is the simplest situation in air combat, a target that is coming exactly at you. So they could use the whole range of a PL-15, for example. And in fact, there is a claim that is unverifiable, though, that the Pakistani J-10s shoot down 1 or more aircraft. So despite the fact that the operation was a success in terms of results, they hit all the targets they were planning to hit, the losses that they got are showing that the Pakistani have a reaction capability. Moreover, after all this story, the two sides started exchanging artillery rounds from one side of the border to the other, and that lasted for most of the night and the morning. So I don't think that the Pakistani were caught by surprise, but I think that they actually reacted quite effectively, albeit they were not capable of saving those targets. Well, what is going to happen now? We don't know. There have been Pakistani declarations on both sides of the spectrum. Some declarations said, we have been attacked, we will react. Some other declarations said, well, if the Indians don't attack again, we are not going to react because we want to de-escalate. So we really don't know. Fact is, this incident is by far the largest incident that happened in recent years. There is the suspension of the Indus Treaty that is very important, that shows that the Indians are very serious this time. So I suppose that we can only observe the situation and hope that it's not going to degenerate in another war, because it's definitely something that we don't need. Before ending, an enormous thank you to all the guys on the Discord server. You are fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. They're capable of finding the most obscure pieces of information very quickly. They are incredible, absolutely incredible. They deserve credit for this video, probably more than I do. Also, thank you to my friend Andrea Gaspardo in Italy, that the regulars of the channel will probably know. We had a nice general discussion about the situation that helped to form my ideas. This is it for the moment. I hope I will not need to come back to this subject because everything is de-escalated and goes quiet again. but it shouldn't be the case. We will definitely be back. So thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.